What's going on, children? Uncle Brian. Just getting out of the gym a little bit ago. Feeling great. Did something different today, and I've seen George Bruno talk about on his channel how live slower. And I did that. It was low and slow today, not like low and slow on my smoker, but low and slow at the gym. And I gotta tell you what, I feel really great about doing that. I feel good. I feel different, but I feel good. The pump was a lot greater than it was if I put in just a session of 8 to 10 reps at a regular pace. But I slowed it down today and count of 3 to 4 are coming up and then coming down. And I gotta tell you, it feels great. It's a different, but it's great. How many of you are people watchers out there? I sure am. Absolutely. I get a kick out of watching people. I think it's entertaining a lot of times what you see out there at the Walmart or at the concerts or football games or at kids' sporting events. But I gotta say, currently from my observation, and there's at least 4 generations of people, currently living in the United States and probably abroad. But it's kind of interesting to see how people have evolved, the differences among each generation, what has changed over the time. And I got kind of a true story to share with you. And this was probably late this summer, mid late summer, when my mom and her husband come into town from the Sandhills. They sometimes would call me up and ask me if I want to meet them for lunch somewhere. And of course, this particular instance, I was home and they asked me to lunch, and I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll go." So, anyways, we meet at Arby's. Well, Arby's had their Wagyu burger as their hot menu item for that time frame, and of course, they ran out of Wagyu, so I settled for something else. But anyways, we're sitting at a table, and at my 10 o'clock position, I noticed 3 women, and it was 3 generations of women, 3 generations. There was a mother, daughter, and a granddaughter. And the mother was probably, I was thinking about this before I started the video, what generation she could have been, either a very young boomer or an older Gen Xer. See, I'm Gen X, but I'm a young Gen X. I was born in '76, and I believe the cutoff to be considered Gen X is either, I believe, 79-ish. Don't hold me to it, but I'm guessing that either 79, 80. They have a makeshift generation here called the Zennials, that anyone born like 78 to like 80 would be a Zennial. Like you're in between Gen X and millennials, why they call it Zennial. But anyways, she was probably in her upper 50s, I'm guessing. Her daughter was probably in her upper 20s, 30 maybe. And then she had a granddaughter that was probably maybe middle schoolish, maybe freshman in high school. And what's weird about this is I'm looking at these 3 women. The mother was in the better shape between the 3 of them. She was, like I said, she's probably a young boomer, older Gen X. She took very good care of herself, from what I can see. Very attractive for her age. I mean, she had gray hair, and she wore that gray hair and owned it. And she just had a tight body. She wore tight, nice, form-fitting clothing all the way from the jeans to the top. She looked great. But her daughter, which I'm guessing is probably 22 to 25 years younger, was morbidly obese. I mean, fat as hell. And the granddaughter was well on her way to obesity. She was very overweight. Might, for that age, could be obese, but for the most part, it was 3 generations of women that you could just tell through generations where things just really went to shit. And it's just something that I thought was rather interesting. But anyways, today I want to talk about the age-old question, the recent question that comes up, and I see it on other YouTube channels where people are talking about, can men and women be friends? Can men and women exist in the world together in close proximity to each other without developing any sexual or intimate type feelings for one another? And I grabbed a couple websites that I'm going to share, and I'm going to reference a few things out of I recently read a book called Men Behaving Badly, and I can't remember. I'd have to go get my service, but the title of the book is called Men Behaving Badly, and it talks about different issues women face when it comes to men, dating, marriage, all the way from sexual harassment to interrelationship violence. Like, right now, a hot topic out there is women being raped in their marriages. Okay. But we're not going to talk about that. I want to cover this topic of can men and women be friends? And when I take a look at how we have changed and evolved as a society, I was born in the 70s, raised in the 90s, and up and starting in the 90s until present day. Women over the years in my day of up and coming and growing up, more and more women have left the homes, went to work due to constant changes in our economic environment. Inflation has gone up year over year for the last 30, 40 years. It's literally made what used to be a one person income now has to be supported by two people. Okay. So now women are leaving the house, going to work, and they're working around men. Okay. So they're interacting not only when they get home, they interacting with their husbands, but when they go to work, they're interacting with other men, which are their coworkers, bosses, what have you. And so we kind of get into a fine line where people, women will have like work friends. Well, these are my work friends. We go out to coffee, we go out to drinks after work. But what exactly defines, that some sources will say, yeah, men and women can have a platonic relationship and might even say that's even better than a sexual or intimate relationship. But I'm going to take a few things out of the Men Behaving Badly book here. I got some notes here for the show, but when you look at male friends, essentially coming from a male perspective as a man, I don't have female friends. I don't. One thing I've learned is that men and women don't share a lot of things in common. Okay. Like when I go to the lake, go fishing, I pull my boat out there to the lake, and I'm almost guaranteed that I don't see a group of women launching a boat at the dock and going fishing. And I'm pretty certain, I mean, I know there's female riders that ride motorcycles. I've actually talked to and know of a couple women that do ride their own motorcycles, but they typically will do it in a group type setting. They're not like a lot of guys like myself. I ride solo most of the time. I'll jump on my bike and I'll ride, take a road trip, and I'm going solo. So a lot of women don't necessarily do that. And just like when I go to the gun range, I don't necessarily see a bunch of women out there shooting 9mm and AR-15s and what have you. To me, men and women just don't have a whole lot in common. Now, don't get me wrong, women like to do those things, but they do those things in the company or with the company of a man typically. Like when I was married, wife and I would go out fishing, or with me and the GF, we'll take the boat out together and spend time on lake together. But for the most part, I don't see women doing those things independently. They're usually doing it in the company of a man. So what will be the purpose of women being friends with men? And the only thing that really comes to mind is there's a term out there uh, called beta male orbiters. And it's usually guys in her orbit that circle her orbit. Okay, she says they're friends, but in reality, when you break it down, what are men most interested in from a woman? Sex, plain and simple. To men, women are beauty objects. Okay, so when a woman has a group of guys, and we call it her orbit, these guys are just orbiting around her, waiting at the opportunity for his chance to win her heart, to get her attention. And these are the guys that typically, when when she gets dumped or she breaks up with her boyfriend or gets divorced, these guys are the ones that will quickly jump in and they'll be a shoulder for her to cry on. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Another term that comes to mind for this is white knighting. These guys come in, swoop in, I'm here to save the day, and try to comfort her and sympathize with her. Oh man, that's messed up what he did to you, and blah blah blah. Just kind of playing into her emotions is all he's doing, in hopes that she will reciprocate and maybe call him, a week later, say, hey, you want to go grab a drink, you want to go grab a coffee somewhere, and that's what these guys are doing. They're not now. Granted, maybe nothing will never happen, but these guys lie in wait and in hopes to maybe get a chance. Like I said, there's a lot of women out there who will disagree, but I'd almost be willing to guarantee if you, as a woman, if you associate with or talk to other guys like outside your relationships or whatever, and you pull your phone out and you text Tanner, who says that he's my friend, but if you text him on a slow Tuesday evening while you're watching whatever latest um, sitcom out there is for women, and you text him and say, hey, what are you doing right now? And he'll say, well, not much. Why? What are you up to? And she says, well, just got done watching this episode of Friends, for example, and I just wonder if you want to go grab a drink with me. Of course, this guy's gonna say, oh yeah, I'll do it. He'll drop whatever he's doing and go, because he's gonna look at it as a potential date, not as a not like when I get a hold of my guy friends and say, hey, you guys want to go have beers at wherever, and we go. The setting is different. When guys go out together, it's different, and when girls go out together, it's different. But when when a man and a woman come together, then it looks to be more of a dating opportunity than anything else. But here's some interesting stats I read there and maybe hit him badly. When he comes down to um, sexual assault, sexual misconduct, women are always concerned about there's a term out there called stranger danger. Like a woman starts chatting up with a guy on Tinder. After about a week, they decide to meet. Her most, excuse me, her biggest concern is getting potentially raped, potentially getting physically harmed by this guy. So she's letting her friends and family know, hey, I'm going out with Tanner and we're meeting at, I don't know, Starbucks for coffee. I'm going to meet him at this time and I'm only going to allow 2 hours. So if you don't hear from me in 2 hours, try to get a hold of me before taking additional action. Okay. So women are worried about stranger danger, guys that they don't know. But in reality, and according to my findings in Men Behaving Badly, is that most women, 40, they did a random survey of 46 women. 9% of those women had described fearing that a man would rape them and then murder them. Of these women, 91% expressed fear of being raped and then murdered by a total stranger, while only 9% feared those outcomes from men they knew. And as I see to read further in the book, more and more of these instances of rape and sexual assault are actually happening to women from guys that they consider friends. Okay. And so more than likely, the girl knows the guy that raped her. So when we think about can men and women be friends, there's a kind of a danger there, fine line there. And the more I think about it, I kind of agree with the fact that men and women cannot be friends. It's one thing when people go out as a group, you go out, when I was married, the wife and I had other married couples that we hung out with. We go out on town, we went out with these people, and we never veered separately, and that's different. You're in a social setting, but when a girl calls up a guy or texts a guy and says, hey, what are you doing? She thinks that it's just a friendly, well, I'm going to go out and share my, share my day with him and what have you, and tell him about the latest and greatest brownie recipe I made up for me and the dog. And like, like most guys don't care about stuff like that. If when I get a hold of a woman or text her, it's usually, hey, let's go out. You know, how would you feel about meeting me at 8 o'clock at Starbucks, for example? We'll have a coffee. We'll go walk around the park or something. I make it more of a date more than because I don't care what she has to really say to me about her day. I don't care. I'm there because I want to make a potential. I'm vetting for a potential maybe relationship, a hookup. Kind of vetting her out as guys typically do. I mean, I don't know if most guys that would take a woman up on her offer to go have a drink and then not get nothing in return. Okay, not a kiss goodnight or or some kind of sexual encounter out of it. That's one thing I think the women are misled to believe is that there are guys out there that, well, they don't have such interest in me. Well, there's a chance that that might be true, but are you really going to run with that assumption when you call up your guy friend? And I've got a couple websites here that I actually printed one out. One of them is from the Art of Manliness. I will link these down in the description when I upload the video, so you can. And I'll probably put the Amazon link for the book Men Behaving Badly. I think it's by David Buss is the author, if I remember right. But I'm going to reference a article here from. Oh man, I didn't think I didn't get enough sleep from Art of Manliness, and I'm going to section here that says what the research says. And researchers found that while women were generally not attracted to their male friends and saw the relationship as strictly platonic, the men usually had romantic feelings for their lady friends. Remember, guys, women just nowadays just are not attracted to you, so they're more likely to believe, they're more likely to be not attracted. Again, it's that beta male orbiter. While they're getting their back blown out by a Chad or Tyrone, they got these guys waiting in the orbit, and they'll give them just enough attention to keep them in the orbit. Grant, these guys could leave and go date somebody else, sleep with somebody else if they want to, and they probably do, in hopes that Becky will get a hold of them later for a potential relationship. So guys hold stronger feelings toward their female friends than the female friends have feelings for them. That makes sense. So not only were the guys more attractive to their female buds, they also mistakenly believed that the women were more willing to act on their or they were more willing to act on their erroneous perception. Meaning, I have feelings, Becky and I are friends, and I'm in the orbit, okay, and I developed feelings for Becky at some point, and then she texts me and says, "Hey, how you been doing, Brian?" And I take that as a sign of, oh, I think she's interested in me. And then this is another gray area where, so much of this Me Too movement comes in. Guy swoops in there thinking, oh, she's attracted to me now. I can make my move. And then bingo, you just made almost a fatal mistake. Okay. Thus, the study suggests that women generally think that men and women are friends, while men are secretly hoping there's a chance with their female friends that there is something more. Okay, that's just what I just reiterated. Okay. Basically, the explanation for the friend zone: women and men operate on different wavelengths when it comes to their cross-sex relationships. Okay. Here we go. Here's another section I'll cover as well. Now, if you're older and or married in a committed relationship, tread much more carefully with opposite sex friendships. I personally would say that after you get hitched, you shouldn't have any opposite sex friends you spend time with without your spouse. There you go. Again, it comes down to, you're like, you met this chick, You've been dating for a while. She's digging your vibe. She finally comes to you with the question, "Hey, Brian, I'm really digging your vibe. I really like where we're going. I think you're a great person. I want to be exclusive with you. Where do we stand?" But then, as in my vetting process of her, of course, I've got my radar on it the whole time. Got men should be vetting women for at least 2 years before they decide to commit. But then those 2 years, a woman can hide craziness, she can hide male friends, she can hide a whole bunch of things that would be red flags. So I know Becky's been texting with some guy. I don't know who it is. She's texting with some guy. So when she approaches me with the, "Hey, where do we stand?" talk, my answer is, "Well, Becky, I dig your vibe too, but I cannot take you seriously if you're texting other men." And she says, "Well, they're just friends." And I say, "Well, no, if you're going to be exclusive with me, you have to delete these guys out of your phone, out of your DMs, out of your social medias, whatever, because I cannot take a woman serious who has male friends. Because I understand, and I've been fortunate enough I've never been cheated on by a woman, but I know guys that have. And so having male friends is a red flag, guys. It's no joke. Don't sit there and take that, just be observant, be aware. And you shouldn't have an opposite sex friend you spend time with without your spouse. Okay. Realize this is an unpopular opinion with some. I've got a great female friend I hang out with all the time. My wife doesn't mind, and we both know nothing will ever happen, they proclaim. Again, guys, if you have these boundaries, and it goes with the women too. I mean, there are women out there that wouldn't want me talking to other women, and I respect that, and I don't, and I wouldn't if that was the case, because if that's a relationship boundary, if she's going to respect it, I'm going to respect it as well. And that's something you got to think about. It's about protecting the relationship. It's about respecting that relationship and respecting the other person you're with. Guys, it's a no fucking brainer. And it's a basic principle of treat others as you want to be treated. So, in other words, treat her as you want to be treated and vice versa. She should treat you as she wants to be treated. You know, if she's going to go out and invite guy friends into the mix and it becomes a problem, well, as a man, you got to eliminate that problem quick. When she, like I said, when she comes to you and says, "Hey, Brian, I dig your vibe. I want to be exclusive with you. Um, where do we stand?" And of course, my answer will be, "Hey, I know you're still talking to Tanner or Kyle." I said, "I cannot take you serious if you're going to have these guys as your friends." And of course, she's probably going to come back and argue, "Well, they're just friends." I says, "Well, I don't care. But my stance is, if you want to be exclusive with me, you cannot have guy friends." She's not willing to stop talking to these guys, and let her go. Move on to the next woman. Okay. And I don't know if I even need to go to the other website, but I'm going to pander through here and see. The title of it is, and it's from Men's Health. And the title of it is, "So You Got Friend Zone, but guess what? A platonic relationship might be even better." And I often kind of find myself wondering, are guys accepting this over, I remember watching Saved by the Bell as a teenager. That was a big, big show back in the 90s. You had Zach Morris, AC Slater, Screech Powers, and you had the trio of the guys, and you had the trio of the girls, Kelly Kapowski, Lisa Turtle, and Jessica Spano. They were a group of friends, and yet they kind of dated each other throughout the series, and it was kind of interesting. And I remember an episode where Zach and Kelly were at that point, I think she had an interest in AC Slater. Zach wanted to date her, and he was kind of being a jerk about it. But then he finally come to his senses and says, and tells Kelly, "Well, I'd rather have you as a friend than not have you at all." Was what he told her. And that is, I think, this article here. I think a lot of guys are accepting of the fact that Well, she may not like me sexually, but I guess if I can have her as a friend, I'd rather have her as a friend than not have her at all. That's kind of the mindset I get from reading that title. And of course, this article references the romantic comedy When Harry Met Sally. I believe that was a Meg Ryan, Billy Crystal movie, if I remember right. And then in quotes says men and women can't be friends because the sex part always gets in the way. And that was one of the quotes from the movie. Um, yeah. And so let's scroll down here. It says there's no reason to feel ashamed if you find that you've been friend zoned. In fact, it turns out that friend zone is a good place to be. Platonic relationships, i.e., close, non sexual friendships between men and women, can be real and viable and pretty great. Guys, I'm telling you, um, women women want the top 10 to 15% of guys. They will stand at the finish line and sleep with the winners. Okay. If you're the bottom 80 to 85% of guys, rest assured you are going to be in a friend zone and you're not going to like it there. Because while you're watching your buddies, the higher tiered, the higher value guys out there getting the girls, and really they're with very little effort, they're banging these chicks, and you're sitting there wondering, well, how are they doing that? I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy that does what he does. I want to be able to get the guy that gets the girls. I don't want to play in the friend zone. I don't want to do that. That's no place for a man to be. But I think as we see the younger generations of men up and coming and how they're not they've been conditioned to be more feminine than masculine, these guys are accepting the fact that, well, I'll probably very rarely if ever get laid, so I just as well accept the friendship that a woman offers over anything else. And so I think that's what we're seeing more so. But then here's a kind of a brief. They actually interview a gal named Jen B, for instance, a 49-year-old New Yorker who works in technology hardware sales, and asked that I not well, yeah, her name was made up to protect her actual identity. Okay. Wasn't used to the idea of being sidelined when she was rebuffed by a romantic interest 12 years ago. A man she found attractive and would have hooked up with, he is still listed as hottie abs on her phone. Just wasn't into her at first, or just wasn't into her. At first, she was bummed out, which is understandable, but she soon got over it because she found that his friendship was more important to her than some fleeting sexual encounter. Well, again, I don't know if he'd really look at her as a friend, more so as maybe a plate that he would call maybe once a month, once every couple months, kind of because guys do that. We'll spin plates, we'll have three or four different women in rotation. And if a guy can't secure the first option on Friday night, then he'll just go to option number 2 and 3. And oh, wait a minute, number 3 will meet me at 8 o'clock at here tonight. Great. I got a date for tonight. And he won't bother with option 4. And then when the next weekend comes around, same thing. This woman, even though she's 49, she's well past the wall, well expired. She probably is a um, kind of at the last person he would call if he wanted to date kind of deal, which is what I'm thinking. And she has gotten to know him so well that she realizes she wouldn't have wanted to be with him in the first place. So now she's decided at 49, well, after I know this guy, I probably wouldn't like him anyway. Now, a woman at 49, you're not spoiled for choice. If this guy started showing more of a sexual interest in you, yeah, you'd bang him, regardless of what you just said here. That she has gotten to know him so well that she realizes she wouldn't have wanted to be with him in the first place. There's a chance there that he's banging chicks. Probably she's 49. He's probably banging girls that are, I don't, doesn't say how old he is, but he could be banging girls that are 35, for example. So, I mean, see if they have any others. And goes to mention Harry Wagger, a professor in the Nicholson School of Communication and Media at the University of Central Florida, who studies cross-sex relationships, says that platonic relationships are becoming more common as societal norms have loosened up. And I think a lot of that has to do with men and women are interacting more outside of the house. Like I mentioned earlier, that women are more and more women are entering college and entering the workforce, so it opens them up to more interaction with men because they're going to work around guys at work. So we're seeing a lot more of this going on. Um, she's like a guy, he says of his friend. I can go months without talking to her, and we can pick up right where we left off. And goes on to say another guy, Andrew Spatz, 46-year-old attorney, has maintained a platonic relationship with the same woman who he described as his best friend since he was 13. They talk almost every day. As the best part about their friendship is that she will tell me what I need to hear, Spatz says, not what I want to hear. Mm-hmm. Again, that's another example of guys being feminized by, like I said, I don't mind, I've had great conversations with women. There are a lot of intelligent women out there that can hold a great conversation, but I do not go to women for advice. I just don't. Um, for example, I called my mom last night as I needed some advice on Medicare. She's of Medicare age, and I need to get more information so I can help my dad out who cannot take care of himself. So I'm the guy that does that. So I had a Medicare question regarding vision coverage. The old man needs new glasses, and I'm just wanting her advice on, hey, is there a Medicare part whatever that covers vision? Of course, that's probably the last time, and that was last night. I called my mom and asked that, but I typically don't call my mom and ask for advice. I just don't do that. If I need advice, I'll go to a guy, a friend of mine that's a man, say, what do you think about this or about this, whatever. Um, maybe, I mean, it could be a new millennial Gen Z thing where, I mean, you got women out there now that are licensed counselors counseling men on relationships and love and stuff like that, which I think that's wrong. I don't think men should be going to women for relationship advice, for one. They could be coming to channels like mine and Aaron Clary's and Rich Cooper's and Joker's and a handful of these other guys that have channels and get relationship advice. Learn something. But anyways, I found this to be an interesting topic because I think it's something that it needs addressed. And I think there's a lot of rift between men and women on how, the belief that men and women can be friends. I've talked about both sides of that coin. Just kind of sum it up. In my mind, and I feel that men and women cannot be friends because of the potential sexual component there. When I engage or talk to women, I've got some form of intimacy or some form of attraction to them, sexual attraction to them. I want to date them. I want to have a relationship with them. I want to be intimate with them. It's not, I don't want to be like a friend. I don't want to be, and I've told women before, I don't play in the friend zone. That's not where I belong. My deal is, when women say, "Oh, I just want to be friends," and I say, "No, I don't want to be your friend. I've got plenty of friends. I don't. You and I have nothing in common unless we enter into a relationship. And if that's not what you want, that's fine. But go on. But I'm not going to play in your beta orbit. I don't belong there. That's not where I go. So it's my opinion, and I think a lot of guys are on board with that men and women cannot be friends. So think about that, guys. When a woman puts you in the friend zone, you have to understand what that truly means. When she says, "Well, I just want to be friends," she's not totally kicking you out, but she's showing a level of very low interest in you that's worthy of putting you in the friend zone, aka the beta male orbit. Okay. She's putting you there, and then she may shit test you every now and then. She'll give you a little crumbs of attention because women will always have a backup. And And there's proof here that most women cultivate backup, or in this Men Behaving Badly book, they refer to partners as mates. Most women cultivate backup mates ranging in number from 1 to 5 who function as male insurance. So when something goes wrong in her current relationship or things go bad in her current relationship, she's got another guy in waiting. And usually by the time the relationship is deemed over or the marriage has failed, she's already banging the insurance guy. She's banging the guy that's in her orbit already. She's already, like I said, she's got 1 to 5 guys in her orbit. These are the friends that when she is done with her husband or her LTR, she can immediately move on to the next guy. We also call that monkey branching, where a lot of women won't take a break from their prior relationship. They feel that they have the need to climb on board with the next guy, and then on so on and so on and so on. So once she picks a guy out of the orbit to date, then she'll immediately find another guy to replace that guy that she took out of the orbit. You see how this is going now? Women in their own economic, women with their own economic resources have greater power to leave bad relationships or trade up to better ones. Yep. So if a woman has a job, she's educated, she does not necessarily need my resources per se, but she does want to be intimate with me. And if for some reason things don't work out, she can quickly exit the relationship and not lose anything. And then once she leaves me, she could, or even before she leaves me, she could already be banging the next guy. So, guys, that's stuff to think about when you think that when your girl is innocently talking to her guy friend, you might want to think twice about that before you enter into a long-term commitment with her. So, with that being said, I think that's all I got today, guys. It's something to ponder and think about when you're out there dating. And guys, this is a red flag. Women that have guy friends, that is a red flag. Okay. Regardless of what she tells you, when she comes up to you and says, like, I want to know where we stand. I dig your vibe. I want to be exclusive with you and you only. But then that she's talking to other guys that she says, well, these are my friends. You really got to stand up for yourself. I mean, some guys, if you're okay with it, that's fine. You could take that risk. But me, my answer would be, well, Becky, I dig your vibe too, but I cannot take you serious if you've got guy friends. I just cannot take that serious. And then I would say, if you want to be exclusive with me, you have to remove these guys from your phone contacts, from your social media connections, everything. You got it, because she's gonna expect that from me. Okay, she's gonna expect me to wipe my phone off of other women, which okay, that's good, that's fine, I can do that. But if you're not doing it, I'm not doing it. In which case, it's going to cause conflict later on. That's not worth the trouble. So think about that, guys. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. Toodles.